if these are drones operated by some, foreign adversary or whatever,
Right.
why would they have lights on them? Today, we're going to be diving into some pretty strange reports about drone sightings.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to connect those to some bigger questions
Right.
about, how we as humans try to wrap our heads around things that we just can't explain.
Exactly.
And we'll be looking at some really intriguing stuff.
Yeah.
Things like, drone sightings over military bases.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking both U.S. and U.K. here.
Right.
And then also just some historical examples of how science has dealt with new ideas.
Yeah.
Because sometimes new ideas are not exactly welcomed with open arms. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Quantum Soul. We're even going to get into some pretty heavy stuff like mathematical theorems
Wow.
that suggest that our knowledge, like everything we know as humans,
Right.
will always be incomplete.
That's right.
So it's a pretty wild mix of topics.
Do this.
But trust me, it's going to all make sense and
Ready.
be absolutely fascinating by the end of this deep dive.
I'm looking forward to it.
So let's start with these drone sightings, because this is some really weird stuff.
It is.
We're not just talking about little hobby drones here. These things are being reported over military bases,
Right.
like I said, in the US and the UK.
Uh-huh.
And they're described as being much larger
Yeah.
than anything you could just, buy online.
Much larger.
Yep, we're way bigger.
Yeah, and they're also unresponsive to countermeasures,
Exactly.
which is a really big deal.
It is a huge deal because it makes you wonder, what are we dealing with here?
Exactly what technology.
Right, what technology are we talking about?
Yeah.
And this whole thing kind of hits close to home for me.
Oh, really?
Because a friend of mine in New Jersey told me he saw something like this
Oh, wow.
recently, and he was pretty spooked.
I bet.
Yeah.
She's like, well, and what's interesting is
Yeah.
it seems like these types of events, they tend to happen in waves.
You're right.
Back in 2019 and 2020, there were a whole bunch of sightings
Yeah.
over eastern Colorado and Nebraska. It's true. And you know what? The official investigations didn't really go anywhere.
Exactly. Inconclusive.
Right.
It's like they just hit a dead end.
Like they're just not sure.
It makes you wonder if there's something more to it,
Right. Yeah.
I was actually reading this article by a Washington, D.C. correspondent,
Okay.
and they found records
Interesting.
of similar objects
Wow.
being seen in those same areas
Really?
back in the 1960s.
Huh. So this has been going on for a while.
It seems like it, yeah.
So it's not just a recent phenomenon.
No, it makes you wonder if maybe we're just too quick to dismiss these things.
Yeah, are we too quick to jump to conclusions?
Right, like, oh, it's just a misidentified aircraft.
Right, or a weather balloon
Yeah, exactly.
or something like that.
But what if it's not?
What if it's something else?
What if it's something totally
Right.
outside of our current understanding?
Like, are we trying to force these, square pegs into
Yeah.
round holes?
I like that analogy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like we're trying to
We're
force.
trying to take these new phenomena and
Yeah.
just cram them into the categories we already have.
Gotta fit somewhere.
Yeah, if it doesn't fit, we just kind of shrug and move on. But what if we're dealing with something genuinely new?
Right.
Something that challenges...
What if it doesn't fit in any of our boxes?
Exactly. And what if it challenges our understanding of what's possible?
That's a scary thought for some people.
It can be.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
If these are drones operated by some, foreign adversary or whatever,
Right.
why would they have lights on them?
That's a great point, especially over military bases.
Especially over military bases.
You'd think they'd want to be stealthy.
Exactly. You would think they'd want to be as covert as possible.
Right. So why the lights?
Unless,
Unless they want to be seen.
right, unless it's,
Which is a whole other can of worms.
yeah, it's a whole other thing.
It's a whole other mystery.
It really makes you think.
It does. It makes you question everything.
Like maybe
Yeah.
we don't have all the answers.
Maybe we don't.
Maybe our knowledge is always going to be
Incomplete.
incomplete. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah, maybe that's just part of being human.
Maybe that's the beauty of
The
it.
mystery of it all.
Exactly. So where do we go from here?
Well, I think that's a perfect segue into the next part of our dive.
Okay.
Because history is full of examples of
yeah.
these like really radical, groundbreaking ideas that were initially met with resistance.
Absolutely.
Sometimes even ridicule
Yeah.
from the scientific community.
It's almost like a rite of passage.
It's like you have to go through that
Yeah. For truly revolutionary ideas.
to be taken seriously.
Yeah. To be initially rejected.
Yeah.
Sometimes even vilified.
It's like it threatens them somehow.
It does. It's like they're protecting their territory. Their cherished theory.
I like the scientific community circling the wagons.
Right. Protecting themselves from these unwelcome intruders.
These new ideas.
The new ideas. Yeah.
And what's fascinating is this pattern repeats itself
It does. It happens over and over again.
over and over over again.
Yeah, across different fields and time periods.
It's like a universal law of new ideas.
It really is, and you see it with the initial resistance to electromagnetism, for example.
Oh yeah, good example.
James Clerk Maxwell.
He was a pioneer in that field.
He was brilliant. He called those who opposed the idea the enemy.
The enemy. Wow, that's intense.
It is strong language.
It is.
But it shows you how strongly people felt about it.
Yeah, and even Einstein himself said that electromagnetism wasn't even taught
I know, isn't that crazy?
when he was in high school.
Yeah, you think about how fundamental it is.
It's mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing to our understanding of the universe.
Yeah, and
yet it wasn't even considered important enough to teach.
not back then.
Not back then. It really highlights.
It shows you how much things have changed.
It does, and how much they haven't.
Yeah.
Because we still see this resistance to new ideas today.
Oh, absolutely we do.
It's like there's this inherent discomfort.
With the unknown.
Yes, with the truly novel.
Yeah.
With anything that threatens to disrupt.
To shook things up.
Yes, to shake things up.
The established order of things.
Exactly. And you see this same pattern play out with black holes, too.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
Subramanian Chandrasekhar, this incredibly brilliant Indian physicist.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He was ridiculed for his proposal of what we now know as black holes.
Isn't that crazy?
It is, and his idea was an extension of Einstein's theory of relativity.
So even if an idea is rooted in solid science,
Yeah,
it can still be rejected.
it can,
If it pushes the boundaries too far
if it's too far out there.
too far outside of what
Yeah.
people are comfortable with.
Yeah, like there's this...
It's a comfort zone.
Yeah, comfort zone.
And science.
And if you go outside of that,
you get punished.
you get ridiculed.
Yeah.
You get ostracized.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to protect themselves.
From the truth. From the unknown, from the possibility that they might be wrong.
It's a human thing.
It is. It's very human.
It's not just science either.
No, it's everywhere.
It's like a fundamental part of how we deal with new information.
And you see the same pattern with antimatter.
Oh yeah, Paul Dirac.
Paul Dirac.
He proposed antimatter.
Yes, based on pure mathematics.
Yeah, the math was there.
The math was solid, but people laughed at him.
They mocked him.
They mocked him, they dismissed him.
And then a few years later,
It was confirmed.
antimatter is real.
It's a real thing.
It's amazing how often the things that are initially ridiculed end up becoming cornerstones of our understanding.
It happens all the time.
And it's not just theoretical concepts either.
No, like look at the case of quasicrystals.
Oh, yeah. Dan Shechtman,
Dan Shechtman, an Israeli crystallographer.
brilliant guy.
Brilliant guy. He was expelled from the International Union of Crystallographers. Expelled for his proposal of quasicrystals,
That's crazy.
which went against the prevailing dogma at the time.
That's wild.
It shows you the lengths to which people will go
To defend their worldview.
to defend their worldview.
Even when faced with compelling evidence to the contrary,
It's like they'd rather cling to their beliefs,
then admit they might be wrong.
even if it means ignoring the evidence.
It makes you wonder if we're still doing this today.
I think we are.
If there are ideas out there right now,
That are being dismissed or ridiculed?
simply because they don't fit neatly into our current understanding of the world,
Exactly, because they're too strange,
too weird,
too far out there.
too threatening.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if maybe these unexplained drones we're talking about are falling victim to that same kind of resistance,
It's possible.
that same unwillingness to confront.
the possibility of something truly new
Yeah.
and unknown.
The unknown is scary,
It can be.
but it can also be exciting.
It's where all the new discoveries are made.
Exactly.
It's where we push the boundaries of our understanding.
And this whole idea of the limits of knowledge,
Yes.
the inherent gaps in our understanding,
Uh,
it actually goes even deeper than these historical anecdotes.
oh, really?
There are mathematical theorems
Wow.
that suggest our knowledge will always be incomplete,
That's fascinating.
no matter how much we learn or discover.
So even with all our advances in science and technology,
Yeah.
we're still limited.
It's like there's a fundamental limit
There is.
to what we can know.
To what we can know.
Wait, are you talking about Gödel's incompleteness theorem?
Yes, and Turing's halting problem.
Oh, wow. Those are some mind-bending concepts.
They are.
I've always found them fascinating,
Me too.
but also kind of mind-boggling.
They are definitely mind-bending, but at their core,
Yeah.
they're formal mathematical proofs that any logical system
Like the ones we use to understand the universe.
exactly will always have inherent limitations.
That's a big statement.
It is, but the math backs it up.
So you're saying that there are things we just can't know? Oh?
That's what the theorem suggests.
Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna need you to break that down for me a little.
Okay.
Because I get the basic idea.
Yeah.
But how do these theorems actually demonstrate those limitations?
Well, think about it like this.
Okay.
Gödel's incompleteness theorem basically shows that within any sufficiently complex logical system,
Right.
there will always be statements that are true,
Okay.
but that can't be proven within that system itself.
Oh, there's like a blind spot.
Exactly like a blind spot in our logical reasoning.
That's trippy.
It's like trying to use a dictionary
Okay.
to define every word in the dictionary.
You'd end up going in circles.
Exactly. You'll inevitably run into circular definitions.
And you'll always be missing some pieces.
Always.
So even our most sophisticated systems of logic
Yes.
are inherently incomplete.
inherently incomplete.
Wow. And if that's true for math,
Yeah.
what does that say about our attempts to understand the vastness and complexity of the universe?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a humbling thought.
It is.
Like, no matter how much we learn,
Uh-huh.
there will always be these mysteries lurking.
Just beyond the edge of our understanding.
Now, maybe that's where these unexplained phenomena come in.
Maybe they're pointing to those gaps in our knowledge.
What if they're those true statements?
The ones we can't quite prove yet.
Yeah.
The mysteries we haven't solved.
The programs we haven't figured out how to halt.
Exactly.
That's a fascinating way to think about it.
And it is. It's like these phenomena are pushing us
To expand our horizons.
to expand our framework of knowledge
To confront the limits of our current understanding.
and to consider the possibility.
That there might be entirely new ways of knowing.
Yes, new systems of logic.
That we haven't even conceived of yet.
That's the exciting part
It's like we're being forced to step outside
of our comfortable boxes.
and confront the vast unknown.
And that can be unsettling,
For sure.
even frightening for some.
It can be a lot to take in.
It can, and throughout history, we've seen how societies tend to react
Oh, yeah.
when faced with the unexplained.
Not always. Well,
Not always.
I mean, look at the 1953 CIA convened Robertson panel.
Yeah.
They concluded that UFOs posed a threat to national security.
A threat.
Not necessarily because of what they were.
But because of the public's potential reaction to them.
The fear was that
Yeah.
widespread knowledge of unexplained phenomena,
Could lead to mass panic.
yeah, mass panic, social unrest,
It's a fascinating example.
of how the unknown can be perceived as a threat.
Not just to our intellectual understanding,
Right.
but to the very fabric of society,
It's like people would rather cling to a comfortable lie.
than confront an unsettling truth.
And it makes you wonder if that same dynamic is still at play today.
Oh, absolutely.
If there are certain truths,
That are even kept hidden.
not because they're dangerous in themselves,
But because of how people might react to them?
it's a question worth pondering.
It is.
And it brings us back to the question of how we
As individuals and as a society.
should approach these unexplained phenomena.
It's a tough question.
It is
We have to find a balance.
between skepticism and open-mindedness.
Yes, critical thinking.
And a willingness to consider possibilities that might seem outlandish at first,
It's a tough balance to strike.
especially in a world where we're bombarded with information from all sides.
Right, where it's hard to tell what's real and what's not.
It's like we're drowning in information.
But that's why it's more important than ever
To be discerning,
to cultivate critical thinking skills.
to be willing to challenge our own assumptions.
Because sometimes our assumptions can lead us astray.
You know, it reminds me of my experience
Oh, yeah.
at the citizen hearing on disclosure back in 2013.
I remember that.
There were all these incredibly credible witnesses,
There were
pilots, military personnel,
people who had firsthand experience.
with these unexplained phenomena.
And yet,
The media largely dismissed it.
they ridiculed it.
It's a classic example of how,
Our preconceived notions
yeah, and biases,
can filter the information we receive.
even when presented with compelling evidence. Yeah,
We tend to see what we want to see.
believe what we want to believe.
It's human nature.
I remember talking to a reporter from the New York Times who was there,
Oh, wow.
and he admitted that it was some of the most compelling testimony he'd ever heard.
Really?
But he said his editors wouldn't even consider running the story.
Wow, that's incredible.
Like it was too much of a threat
To the established narrative.
to the narrative.
That's incredibly frustrating.
It is, but it's also telling.
It highlights the power of the dominant narrative,
Yeah.
the way it can shape our perception of reality.
And filter out anything that doesn't fit.
Exactly.
So what do we do?
That's the million-dollar question.
How do we break free from those narratives?
And open ourselves up to the possibility of the truly unknown. I think it starts with a willingness to question,
But be curious.
to be comfortable with not having all the answers.
It's about embracing the mystery
The unknown.
and recognizing that our current understanding of the world
is always evolving.
Always expand.
Yeah, we're always learning new things.
It's about being okay with the fact
That there might be things out there.
that we just can't explain.
At least not yet.
And maybe those
still-
unexplained phenomena
Are the key
to unlocking a deeper understanding.
of the universe and our place within it.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is. It's a hopeful thought.
It is.
It gives me hope for the future.
Me too.
That maybe we're on the verge of something truly amazing.
Something that could change everything.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, we want to remind you to subscribe to our channel, like this video.
We'll delve even deeper.
We'll delve even deeper into this mystery.
I can't wait.
Stay with us.
Okay, so we were talking about these mathematical theorems.
Yeah, like Gödel and Turing.
Exactly.
Pretty heavy stuff.
They are, but they're really important.
Yeah, because they challenge our assumptions about what we can know.
Exactly. And they suggest that there are limits to our knowledge.
Even with all our advances in science and technology.
Even with all of that, yeah.
Which is kind of a mind-blowing concept.
It is.
Because we tend to think that we're, on this constant trajectory of progress.
Right. Always moving forward. Always learning more.
And these theorems are like, hold on a second.
Yeah, not so fast.
There might be some things that are just fundamentally unknowable.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's like a cosmic speed limit.
I like that analogy.
So how do these theorems actually work?
Well, let's start with Gödel's incompleteness theorem.
Okay.
It basically says that within any sufficiently complex logical system,
Like the ones we use to understand the universe.
exactly, there will always be statements that are true,
Okay.
but that can't be proven within that system itself.
So it's like there's a blind spot in our logic.
Exactly. It's like a built-in limitation.
That's wild.
It's like trying to use a dictionary.
Okay.
To define every word in the dictionary.
You just end up going in circles,
You'd run into circular definitions.
and you'd never be able to define everything.
Exactly. There would always be some words left undefined.
So even our most sophisticated systems of logic
Yeah.
are inherently incomplete.
Inherently incomplete, which is a pretty humbling thought.
It is. It's like no matter how much we learn,
There will always be these mysteries lurking.
just beyond the edge of our understanding.
Maybe that's where these unexplained phenomena come in.
Maybe they're pointing to those gaps in our knowledge.
The things we can't quite grasp yet.
What if they're those true statements?
The ones we can't prove.
The mysteries we haven't solved?
The programs we haven't figured out how to halt.
It's like the universe is teasing us.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's saying you think you know so much, but there's still so much more to discover.
That's a pretty cool way to think about it.
It is. It's like a cosmic invitation to keep exploring.
To keep pushing the boundaries of what we think we know.
And to be open to the possibility that there might be things out there that we can't even imagine yet.
That's both exciting and a little scary.
It is, but I think it's more exciting than scary.
I agree. I think it's what makes life interesting.
It's the mystery that keeps us going.
So how does Turing's halting problem fit into all of this?
Well, Turing's halting problem's a little different, but it gets at a similar idea.
Okay.
It basically says that there's no way to create a universal algorithm that can determine whether any given computer program will eventually halt or run forever.
So you're saying that there are some programs that will just run forever?
And we'll never know for sure whether they'll stop.
That's kind of unsettling.
It is. It's like there's this inherent unpredictability in even the most logical systems.
So even in the realm of computers,
Yeah.
where everything is supposedly so precise and logical,
Right.
there are these fundamental limits to what we can know for sure.
Exactly. And that's kind of profound when you think about it.
It's like a crack in the foundation of our understanding.
And it makes you wonder if those cracks might be where the most interesting things are happening.
The places where the unknown is peeking through.
Exactly the places where we might find something truly new and unexpected.
Something that could change everything.
And I think that's what we need to be open to.
To the possibility that we don't have all the answers.
And that's okay.
That there might be things out there that defy our current understanding.
And that those things might be the key to unlocking a whole new level of knowledge and awareness.
And maybe even a whole new way of seeing the world.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes these unexplained phenomena so fascinating.
They're like little glimpses into the
They're
unknown.
like little cracks in the matrix.
Showing us that there's more to reality than we currently perceive.
And that's a pretty exciting thought.
It is. It's like a cosmic adventure waiting to be explored.
And who knows what we might find along the way.
Exactly.
But I think it's going to be amazing.
I think so too.
And I think it's going to change everything.
Well, on that note, I think we should take a break.
Sounds good.
And when we come back,
We'll dive even deeper into this mystery.
I can't wait. Stay with us. Okay, so we've been talking about these unexplained drones.
Right. These mysterious objects that seem to defy explanation.
And we've been exploring this idea that our knowledge is inherently limited.
That there are these gaps in our understanding where the truly interesting stuff happens.
But what if these drones are more than just some random anomaly?
What if there's something more significant?
What if they're a sign, a message, maybe even a form of disclosure?
That's a fascinating possibility. The idea of soft disclosure has been around for a while.
It has. It's this idea that rather than a sudden, shocking revelation,
Right, not like a big announcement or anything.
you might be gradually acclimated to the idea of an extraterrestrial presence.
Through a series of increasingly undeniable events.
Like these drones could be a way of testing the waters, seeing how we react.
Exactly. They're familiar enough in form.
We all know what drones look like.
But their behavior, their capabilities, the way they defy explanation, all of that creates a sense of unease.
Like something's not quite right.
It plays into that gap between what we think we know and what we're experiencing.
And if that's the case, it seems to be working.
People are definitely talking about these sightings.
It's generating a lot of questions.
It's sparking curiosity, pushing people to question their assumptions, and that's a good thing.
It is. We need to be willing to ask those tough questions
To challenge the narratives we've been given.
and to consider possibilities that might seem outlandish at first.
Because sometimes the most outlandish possibilities turn out to be true.
You know, it's funny because if these drones are some form of soft disclosure, it's actually quite brilliant.
It is. It's a very subtle approach.
They're both familiar and strange, unsettling, yet not overtly threatening,
They tap into our collective fascination with technology and the unknown.
while simultaneously exposing the limits of our current understanding.
It's a clever way to introduce us to something new without overwhelming us.
It allows us to confront the idea of otherness without triggering mass panic or denial.
It invites us to look beyond the surface, to question what we think we know, and to embrace the mystery.
It's a reminder that there's still so much we don't know about the universe and our place within it.
And that's a good thing. It keeps us humble, keeps us curious, keeps us searching for answers.
We've explored some fascinating ideas about the nature of knowledge, the limits of our understanding, and the possibility of something truly new and unknown entering our world.
We've talked about the importance of questioning our assumptions, of being open to new possibilities, and of embracing the mystery of the unknown.
And hopefully we've inspired our listeners to continue exploring these ideas on their own.
Because the journey of discovery is just as important as the destination. Check out the 2 videos on your screen.
Purpose and fulfillment.
Click on one.
And continue your journey of self-discovery with a quantum soul. So keep asking questions, keep searching for answers, and keep an open mind to the wonders that the universe has to offer.
Because who knows what we might find.